Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the We Shall Not Sleep podcast. Happy Advent to everyone. I trust, hope, and pray that you all had a fantastic Thanksgiving here in the United States. I am so grateful for the listenership this year. It's one of the biggest things of gratitude I had. If you hadn't yet realized back a couple of years ago, I took the podcast live. We had it down on Thanksgiving morning. I was interviewing my family from a couple of years ago, and I would encourage you all to go back and listen if you ever have the time to do so. Shout out to my church. Shout out to everyone who supports this channel, the Community Church in North Adams, people who listen each and every week. For the listeners across the globe, thank you again. This holiday season, which starts with Thanksgiving for my family and I. Thanksgiving is my favorite day of the year because it's truly a gateway to so many other things that are just magnificent, and I look forward to that day each and every year the most. And God willing, we'll be back here again next year. But because, Thanksgiving, the way that is timed, it's always right before the first Sunday of Advent. And the first Sunday of Advent, the theme that we discussed is hope. And that's what we did this past week. We talked about hope, and I chose to take a little bit different of an angle than what maybe some people do. You see, one of my favorite Christmas hymns, which is widely known amongst people in my circle, is O Come, Emmanuel. And the reason why that is because it is a song of mourning, and because it is a longing for this Messiah, this figure that is prophesied in this Old Testament to come and then save and ransom captive Israel. It's this longing for the Old Testament prophecies to finally come true. And of course, we as Christians, when we sing that song, we are doing it in commemoration. We're not doing it as anticipation because we already know the story. We're living in the post-resurrection era. And that is, for me, something that gives me chills each and every time I listen to that song because there is hope in that. It's commemorating the hope of our ancestors and that hope went fulfilled. And regardless of where you find yourself at this holiday season, because I understand it'd be incredibly naive for me to assume that the holiday season is a good time for everyone. And that is the type of posture I took, an attitude that I took this past Sunday as I discussed the story of the death of Lazarus and Jesus going to meet his mourning family at Bethany with Mary and Martha. The two different responses from the sisters, and how even in their grief they recognize that Jesus is the Messiah. They understand that their brother will be resurrected at the end of time. I truly they understood that, and it's a beautiful thing. And yet at the same time, that doesn't help them out with their grief here and now. And sometimes in our futile attempt to relate to people, to make ourselves feel better, to comfort people, we say these platitudes that come across as so cold and unloving when we say, oh, God just needed another angel, or hey, it'll get better, hey, everything's going to be okay, and you just try to comfort people, but you're trying to comfort yourself, and you're not really caring for that other person. This happens all the time, and it's a stain on the church. And what I focused on in Jesus is that he weeps. We have a weeping Messiah. Now, sometimes we say in our own plight, we try to comfort people by saying, God's mourning with you. Like, that doesn't help. But I want to focus on two aspects, is that, yes, that statement is true. I do not want to just gloss over the fact that we believe in a Messiah that does weep with us. Jesus does not just go, hey, guys, guess what? Look, for my next party trick, I have this wonderful thing that I'm going to do, but you got to hang on with me just a second. Like, he doesn't make them wait. He doesn't make them wait in the sense that, like, hey, I got something coming and I'm going to explain everything. Like, trust me, this is all that happened. He didn't explain himself. He mourned with them. He didn't rush off and tell them to ignore their feelings. Jesus, again, was fully human. And I think that's probably one of the most glorious things about Jesus' life that I don't know if we do a good enough job focusing on. I don't know if we do a good enough job focusing on this idea that Christ himself was fully human and also fully God. as I closed the sermon this past Sunday, I didn't finish the story. I didn't finish with Lazarus' resurrection. Of course, we know that. I just ended it with the fact that they were mourning together. And sometimes the only thing we can do as God's people is just to go over and sit with people, go over and have compassion and just be with people. Send that text message out to those who are in mourning. Thinking about each other in a much different way. Putting ourselves in other people's shoes. What do we want? I mean, sometimes, we just need someone to do the laundry in that moment. Maybe to bring us a meal because we're so distraught in our own grief. So this is for those who mourn tonight. This is for those who you recognize the hope. You can say, "Yeah, Michael, I know it'll get better." Maybe you have that perspective, but it's just hard right now, and it's amplified even more so because it's contrasted so sharply with the holiday season. I've said it before, as Christians, we don't mourn with people without hope, but we also don't just hope with people without hope. It's not some wish fulfillment bucket list or, genie type of wish. It is actually something that we can celebrate as truth. It's not in anticipation, it's in commemoration. There's a big difference there and how we can look back at these stories and look how all of these things have changed our lives and impacted our lives. So as we go throughout this time of Advent, this time where we celebrate the virtues of hope, peace, love, and joy, what I would love to encourage all of us to do as the church, honoring what the church has done in and through our lives up to this very moment, is have a better and truer understanding of how God can work in our lives, specifically in the lives of those around us, and how we can be more cognizant that not all of us are having a great time, and that we don't have to just do a certain thing. We don't have to say anything. We can just be there for one another. Just be the true church. And that becomes increasingly difficult as our lives become more and more busy, especially in the holiday season. There's a lot of shopping to do here in the West. That's just the kind of thing that takes over our lives, the commercialism of it. There's a lot of events. There's a lot of pageantry. There's concerts. There's assemblies. There's parties. There's get-togethers. And there's all the emotions in between. And what can get lost is looking at your loved ones and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Truly just asking people how they're doing. And that's something that I need to do a better job of, even as a pastor, of remembering that there are people in my life that truly, are going through hell and back all the time because we're humans. We experience this thing called life at different speeds, at different times, and in different ways. And that's just, for me, sometimes it can just get overwhelming. And so, I just want to say for us tonight that wherever you're at during this Advent season, I just want to let you know that I'm thinking of you, even if I don't know you by name, that prayers up tonight for the unspokens, for the unknowns out there. Even if it's just one person, I do this podcast just for the one person who might be listening that might take away something from this. That's who I'm doing it for. And in that, I know that if we're willing to meet with God, connect with Him, offer up our prayers, He can take what we are thinking. He can truly take all of our honesty upon His shoulders. He can take all that. If we connect during the season of Advent, if you do an Advent reading schedule, you can find these online. And you say, you know what, even in the midst of this pain, I'm still going to connect with my God. I want to get to know this Jesus figure, this son who also suffered in so many ways as well as I did. He suffered the same pain. What was his response? What is he commanding us to do? I promise you, God will meet with you and He will respond in ways that you never thought possible before. This is not some prosperity preaching. This is not you give something to get something. No. Remember, God mourns when we are separated from him, not because he has lost something, but because we have lost something. He doesn't need any of that. He's God. He's perfectly fulfilled the way he is. But what would it be like to, in our midst of pain, to lean in even more than we ever have, ever thought possible? To lean on an eternal hope, this hope of this little infant that has come to us now, and that we get to celebrate his reign over the entire earth. May God bless you. May God keep you.